Hello and welcome on this weekly data download broadcast. Some of you may know this already, but Data Download is a weekly newsletter of the NYC Media Lab. And occasionally, usually every week, I'll jump on and just read through the headlines and talk a little about the newsletter, partly because some people like to listen rather than read, and partly because we're always looking for new subscribers. So here's our subscriber link. Please, if you don't subscribe yet, now's the time. Sign right up. All right. We have a bunch of news to get to today. Actually, it's a busy newsletter, so I'm going to zip through some things. First, a little bit of personal news. As some of you may know, I've been the managing director of the NYC Media Lab for the past year, and I'm excited to announce that the oversight board of the organization offered me, and I accepted the role of executive director last week. And NYU made a nice announcement on their website, which is linked in the newsletter, and I'm just bringing it up here because why not have Steve introduce Steve? I do want to say this one thing before we move on to the newsletter itself, which is, part of why this job is both thrilling and a little terrifying is because the organization has such a strong track record. And for 8 years under the leadership of Justin Hendricks, the team has done an extraordinary job of building a base. And so we've set the bar pretty high for the next year. And there's a lot of work to do in the NYC media and technology and publishing and broadcasting space. So with that, glad you're here. Please always feedback welcome. Welcome in the live stream. Welcome via our website. Welcome in any way you want to reach out to us. All right, so back to the newsletter itself. Let's do this in order. This did not make the newsletter, but I think it's so important that I want to just throw it in here. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had the NYC Media Lab Summit. And one of the things at the summit was in the expo area, we demoed the NYU Ad Observatory product, which I thought was extraordinary. I really liked the researchers that did the work. I thought it was exactly the way data should be used to get more insights into how the web is both feeding us things and learning about us. Was really proud of it. And was shocked to learn late Friday that Facebook had actually sent a cease and desist letter to the NYU research project on a whole bunch of levels. And they said that the NYU researchers were violating terms of service. So I will include in the show notes the Wall Street Journal article about this. If you haven't signed up for the NYU Ad Observatory, we'll include that as well. You should. They deserve our support. And it's a great project. It's well-timed. And I frankly wish I'd been in the room with the lawyers at Facebook that decided that, a week before the election, shutting down a university research project about political ads was a good idea. I presume that NYU will fight back ferociously. I hope they do. And we'd love to support them in any way we can. All right. So it seems like that. So within the newsletter itself, a little bit of a mea culpa. So last week, I wrote just a little squib in the intro paragraph about a community called Clubhouse, and I'd heard interesting things about it from a couple of people. I'd signed up for it. I'd gotten an early pass, and I'd spent 2 or 3 hours listening to conversations on Clubhouse. I found them refreshing in that it wasn't politics, which I was kind of maxing out on mostly. There were some twinges of things that worried me a little bit, but I didn't do the research, to be honest. I just kind of blithely said in the last week's newsletter, "Hey, check out Clubhouse. You should sign up," and that turned out to be a mistake. Clubhouse is in the midst of a number of controversies that I think deserve serious consideration. One of them is, however you feel about Facebook and YouTube and Reddit and Twitter, they are all legacy organizations that have built their businesses on being, quote, open platforms, and now they're trying to figure out how to manage those open platforms. or moderate them. Clubhouse had no such issue in that they started from scratch, and the decision to be untranscribed, not searchable, and essentially, unregulated and unmanaged in any way has created a whole series of claims about racism, about anti-Semitism, about misogynistic behavior on the site. I am not deep in the debate, although I'm now paying attention to it. But I just wanted to say, if I kind of blithely recommended it without understanding some of the complexity there, my apologies. And this is kind of part of a larger conversation, and this is in the newsletter. And the headline, this is from the Washington Post: Silicon Valley is famously liberal. Then investors and employees started clashing over race. And this is in particular a battle that's going on about Coinbase. I'm not going to read the article to you. You don't need me to do that, except to say, however the election turns out, whoever you feel politically, this question about technology and bias and free speech versus editorial is going to be a front burner issue for 2021. So if you read nothing else, read this one Washington Post article. Okay, moving on. Next, there's a lot of discussion about how photogrammetry is going to impact journalism. The New York Times has been doing early groundbreaking work. We did a project with them this year that I'm very proud of with students. But like many things that are conceptual, it's easy to talk about them, and in some ways harder to understand them. So I wanted to just show you, this is an article from the New York Times website. This is live now, and this is about a space that they wrote about, and they literally went in and photographed in 3 dimensions the space that the article is written about, and then they gave people the opportunity to explore. And you don't need a helmet, you don't need headgear. This is a 3-dimensional journey into this home, into this office, clubhouse. Wrong phrase, not clubhouse. And what's fascinating about it, as you start to click around in it a little bit, is how quickly you expect this kind of, like, my immediate reaction was, well, why doesn't everything get covered in this way? Why can't I, go to every site that they're writing about and look around and see what's on the walls and see the Bert and Big Bird, dolls in the corner. So if you look up and to the right, it's not here. Here, there's a map, and you can actually see the entire space. I won't spend any more time kind of taking you through it, except to say it's incredibly fun to explore and a great story. So check it out. Speaking of great maps, in the golly, they should have done this a long time ago category, but I'm glad it's done. There is finally a new subway map that is, for New Yorkers, I think, an incredible breath of fresh air. That being said, I have not been on the subway in some time and don't expect that I'll be racing onto the subway anytime in the immediate future. But when I do go on the subway, it will be using this subway map for sure. It's very visual. It's quite beautiful. It's very intuitive, and it's incredibly well done. So congratulations. And I can't wait to need it is the best way to explain that. All right. Next up from Fast Company, a terrific 25 moments in tech that defined the past 25 years. There are probably not a lot of you who are listening to this or reading the newsletter who have 25-year retroactive history into technology. Some of you hopefully do. Some of you probably are just too young. But this is a really good kind of snapshot of where we've come. And Steve Jobs, front and center, certainly relevant. That he set in motion many things that are extraordinary and some things that were unanticipated and probably not so good. In the golly, we should have had it a while ago category, Adobe is adding a content authenticity tool to its latest Photoshop beta. I think that as we move into this new information age, one of the questions that's going to get asked a lot is, where did that come from? Who authored that? Has it been manipulated? Has it been changed? Is that photograph really the work of the person who it's credited to? And so I have not yet used this product, so I'm not endorsing it as the right tool for content authenticity, but I would encourage all of you to check it out, and hopefully it is a step in the right direction. And then in the what are we watching and what are we reading category, this is going to surprise you a little bit. This is not what you'd expect given the political news. I just wanted to watch something different and not. I'm a little burned out on political video at the moment. So this is a piece on Vox about green screen. And, I assume that all of you have seen someone on a Zoom call in the last 2 weeks utilize a really terrible, really janky green screen background. And it's like, if you're a visual person as I am, and if you're a broadcaster as I've been in my life, and a filmmaker and television producer, there's a moment where it's charming, and then then it hurts your eyes, and you're like, oh my God, please shut that off. It's so terrible. That being said, the thing about technology is we know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, it moves forward. And so, while green screen is, in real time on Zoom is mediocre today, it is going to be visually better in 3 months, and it's going to be dramatically better in 6 months, and it's going to be indistinguishable from an actual background in a year. And this piece, in a really nice way, describes kind of, first of all, how hard old style green screen is, and how going forward green screen is likely to be important. Also, frankly, part of the fake news, deep fakes world as well. I mean, I don't know how many people. I was on a call the other day with someone who was sitting in their office, and then if you looked for a minute, you realized that they were not in their office. They were at their country home, sitting in front of a background that looked like that was their office. It was, where you want to be when you transmit yourself into the new virtual world is, I think, going to be a real question. Do you want to be at the beach, or do you want to be at your office desk? So watch this video. It's low stress and it's pleasant. That being said, wait, I think I missed one. I did. Hold on, let me go back here. What we're listening to is also charming, and here we go. Decided that much like not wanting to put up a video about politics, I also didn't want to listen to a politics podcast this week. So I stumbled into Phoebe Reads a Mystery, which is basically a lovely storytelling voice reading famous mysteries. I have not yet started The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but I plan to. But I did poke around to make sure that, for example, Dracula, pretty great to listen to Dracula. And then last but not least, in the newsletter for this week, HoloLive. Not to be confused with HoloLens, different thing, unrelated. I don't know how many of you know what HoloLive is. I was tipped off to it by a young YouTuber explorer. And this is an article from Goombastomp. That's .com. And the headline is, I fell down the HoloLive rabbit hole and I'm glad I did. It's very hard to describe what this is. If you get anything from this newsletter, I would say, here's a link you might not ordinarily expect to be relevant, but it actually is, and it's fun and it's unusual. So do check it out. And with that, that is the newsletter for this week. If you haven't subscribed, please, 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 we always love more subscribers. If you have feedback, let us know. If you think that we're missing things, we'd always like tips, links, stories we're not covering. Our goal in the newsletter is to share things with you that you haven't seen elsewhere and give you kind of a fresh perspective. So with that, have a good weekend. See you soon.